It was a lazy, quiet day in Hollow's End. And then the circus came to town. Randy was talking to his girlfriend on the phone. I was trying desperately not to fail the daily connections puzzle, and only had one attempt left with no successful matches, when I heard a loud noise coming from outside the sheriff's station. A squealing of brakes, and the huff of pneumatic air that followed as some large vehicle came to a stop out front. A transport truck, maybe? Or a bus? The thought of that second thing immediately got me moving, and I stuffed my phone into my pocket, running outside. Randy, my deputy, was following behind me, and I realized he'd heard it too. The front door of the sheriff's station opened to reveal a large, gleaming black tour bus. Supernatural Experience Tours, it read on the side in big, bold capital letters. Somehow, this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Why did history always repeat itself in such close proximity around these parts? First the zombies, and now this? Not again, I muttered to myself, looking around to make sure any non-humans were safely squared away inside their houses. The residents of Hollow's End are not entirely normal, and everyone around here had their share of secrets they wanted to keep to themselves. A busload full of gawk-eyed tourists had no place around these parts, and those who visited here were often quick to find themselves on the wrong side of the grave, courtesy of one of the locals. A man wearing a black golf shirt, khaki pants, and sunglasses exited the bus as we approached, and I saw a crowd of colorfully dressed tourists following in a long procession behind him. A roundish woman in a flowery dress with a camera slung around her neck stepped out of line and took several pictures of me, before pushing the bulky glasses up on her nose and joining the rest again. Okay, people, settle. Let's settle down for a minute. Listen up. Please make sure to stay with the tour group at all times. No venturing off on your own. My number one priority is your safety. We're going to take a quick look around the downtown area before moving on to the swamp and then the forest. So make sure you get all your pictures in now before we move on. Every sentence he spoke made me cringe a little bit more, until by the time I reached him, my face looked like I just swallowed an underripe lemon stuffed with yellow jackets. Whoa, are you okay? He asked, turning around and recoiling when he saw me. I forced my face to relax slightly and stroked my patchy mustache. A calming tick. Yes, just fine. I'm Sheriff Parsons. And you are? My name's Jack. I'm the tour guide here at Supernatural Experience Tours. I thought that would be self-explanatory. He pointed at a name tag pinned to his shirt, which read, Jack, Tour Guide, Supernatural Experience Tours. Of course. And do you have a permit for this tour bus? I felt Randy rolling his eyes from beside me, without even looking. Well, of course. Our driver, Bill, he could provide you with any documentation you might need. A hairy, muscled giant of a man emerged from the bus, stroking his own, much thicker, much fuller mustache. My expression soured again. Whoa, are you okay? The giant bus driver asked, with genuine concern in his voice. I tried to get my face to relax again, but failed. We're just gonna let you get back to it, Randy interjected, pulling me aside before I could further damage my ego. Y'all have a wonderful day in Hollow's End. Make sure you get lots of pictures now. Randy led me away, already typing something into his phone. A text message to someone. What are you doing? Are you just gonna let them wander around downtown Hollow's End unsupervised? Who knows who they could be sending those pictures to? They could be posting them on frickin' Facebook for all we know. Don't worry, dude. I'm on it, he whispered. I got a guy. Dave can wipe out the data signal for the whole area for a little while. That'll stop him from sharing anything. And what about once they leave town? They can share anything they want once they get out of range. He was quiet for a few long seconds. The meaning of that silence was implied. Don't even say it. I didn't. I am very much trying not to say it, because you never like to hear it. Just because they're idiots who showed up in a town full of monsters who openly eat people doesn't mean they deserve to die. We should follow them. Make sure they don't get into too much trouble. Before Randy could say anything to that, another car pulled up, with out-of-state license plates. It pulled over across the street, and a man and woman got out. The two children in the back seat could be heard through the open windows, complaining loudly about how there was no McDonald's around here. Deja vu struck again for some reason. "Hey, is there a diner around here?" the father asked from across the street. "And where do we find the visitor center?" "There isn't one," Randy answered back. "We don't have either of those things." "We could at least give them directions to the diner," I said under my breath. "I thought you wanted to follow that tour bus," Randy said, pointing to the bus and the group of people boarding it again. "Or did you want to try to prevent this family with 2 kids from being eaten alive instead?" "What's that?" the man across the street called out. "Grocery stores down the road. Lots of pre-made meals there. Salads and tuna sandwiches and shit. You folks have a nice day." "Oh, okay. Thanks." They got back into their car, ready to drive off looking for something to eat. "So, which is it, genius? Who do you want to save? You can't choose both." "Ah, shit. I sound like a damn Batman villain over here. Listen, the point is, it's hopeless." Another car with out-of-state plates pulled up and parked near us, just a few yards away. And then a minivan. And then a small convoy of bikers with matching leather jackets. The patches on the back reading, "Satan Supernaturalists." Maybe you want to follow these nice folks. Shit. What the hell's going on, Randy? Where are all these people coming from? Wyoming, Arkansas, New York? Judging by those things they call license plates. You should try reading them sometime. It's actually a pretty big part of our job. Shut up. You know what I mean. How did they know to come here? Randy's phone dinged, indicating a text message. "I think I might be able to answer that for you, boss. We gotta take a ride first. This guy doesn't talk important shit over the phone. He wants us to go over there to meet him. And I think he might just know a little bit about what's going on." Around 10 minutes later, we pulled up in front of an old house on the outskirts of town and got out of the police cruiser. On the way over, we passed several trailers being pulled by pickup trucks, multiple RVs, and at least a dozen other cars with out-of-state license plates, and more gawking tourists taking pictures. There was a full-on gold rush happening here in Hollow's End, except instead of gold, these people were rushing swiftly to their deaths, hoping to get a few pictures of the impossible town full of supernatural creatures and humans living side by side, without realizing those same creatures would never let them leave alive. Somehow, we needed to stop a bloodbath from happening. We needed to get Hollow's End off the map again, before it was too late. If enough people died here, it would become even more notorious. I imagine men in black suits driving black cars with tinted windows, throwing creatures like Frank, Marta Cara, Puppy Dan, Mark from Earth, and even the Crimson Muse into cages, performing tests on them and stabbing them with endless needles. It would be like when I watched E.T. back when I was a kid all over again. Traumatic. Randy rang the bell, and the two of us stood waiting on the porch for someone to answer the door. No one did. Instead, a security camera above us began to swivel back and forth between our faces, zooming in and out. After another few seconds of waiting, there was a buzz and a click as the door unlocked and we were allowed in. The rusty hinges squeaked loudly, and we entered to find a house brimming with old electronics, dusty books, and computer equipment. There were at least a dozen different monitors and CPUs set up at various workstations, and a couch with a big screen TV. The smell of microwave popcorn was in the air, making me realize I hadn't eaten since the night prior, and I was starving. "Back here," a voice called from towards the rear of the house, and we started heading that way. After navigating through narrow gaps between boxes, shelves, and storage units, we entered a back room to find a man with a headset on, typing rapidly on a keyboard and navigating a half-dozen different screens at once. "What's up, Dave?" Randy said, plopping down on a couch and immediately grabbing a bowl of popcorn from the table, cradling it to his chest and inhaling it. I kind of wanted some, but doubted I would get to it before he finished it all. "Help yourselves to some popcorn," Dave said. He was glued to his computer screens, and I wandered over to try and see what he was working on. "I'm Sheriff Parsons," I said from over his shoulder. "Randy said you had some information for us? About all these tourists coming into town?" "Just a sec," he muttered, and spent several more minutes typing and clicking while I watched, understanding none of it. It was like he was working in a different language, or several different languages. Of course, I realized that was exactly what he was doing, but they were computer languages. It didn't look like any sort of coding I'd ever seen before, though. There was something almost alien about it all, like he was looking beyond simple coding at something much deeper and more dynamic. Some of the screens weren't showing words or letters or characters of any kind, but streams of energy and fields of various forces by the looks of it. Finally, Dave called out like he'd made some grand realization, and after a few more seconds of typing and mouse clicking, he spun around in his chair, grinning wide. "They're good," he said. "Whoever they are very, very good. But they didn't count on me being better." "Who?" Randy asked, getting up and dropping the empty popcorn bowl to the floor, spilling unpopped kernels and crumbs everywhere. "Who's sending our location all these freaks and hipsters?" I could have sworn he was already getting ready to pull out his gun. I shook my head at my deputy, and he settled down a bit. "Get ready for this," Dave said, spinning around and pulling up a map on the biggest monitor. A blinking dot in the center of a very familiar-looking town appeared. "Whoever it is, they're right here, in Hollow's End." Dave was kind enough to offer to accompany us to the house in question, bringing along his laptop to make sure we could track the source of the signal, even if it moved. It seemed like the man hadn't been outside for a while, judging by the way he squinted and shielded his eyes from the sunlight like a vampire as we exited his house. He settled himself into the back of the squad car, and I reminded him that we would need to let him out, since the doors back there didn't open from the inside. "That's a little freaky," the stubble-faced man said in my rearview mirror. "Don't forget about me back here, okay? It's freaking hot. Can you open a window?" I cracked all four of them, letting a breeze blow through the car. Then I started the engine and we hit the road. When we pulled up to the house containing the signal source, Randy and I got out of the car. And I did indeed forget about Dave for half a second. He was pretty quiet back there. But I remembered him after taking a half step away from the car, and chalked it up to a joke as I opened the door. "Gotcha," I said, smiling. He stepped out, not impressed. "Whatever it is that's putting out that signal, it's still inside this house," Dave said, pointing to his laptop screen. "I'm not telling you how to do your job or anything, but you might want to put someone at the back door in case they try to run." "I'm on it," Randy said, heading towards the back of the house through a side alley. "Yeah, good call," I admitted. I had long since given up on maintaining the illusion that I was actually a good police officer. Most of what I knew came from watching reruns of Cops and YouTube police body cam videos. I knocked on the door, hoping someone non-threatening would answer. In this town, it was hard to know what to expect. As I rapped on the wood, the door swung open by itself, revealing a dark, pitch-black interior. "Hello?" I called out. Hollow's End Sheriff's Department. Any occupants, make yourself known. That last phrase I definitely stolen from a police body cam video. It sounded super sheriffy. I pushed the door open further, calling out again. It was so dark I couldn't see anything. I pulled out my flashlight, and then, after another second of consideration, my gun. There was a smell wafting out from that front entrance. A very bad, rotten smell. Like spoiled meat in a broken refrigerator after leaving town for a week. A cloying, clothes-permeating stink. Smells like death in there, Dave said, before I could get the words out. Go ahead. I'll be right behind you. Are you sure you don't want to stay out here? I asked. It could be dangerous. I can take care of myself, he answered. And I didn't doubt it. All residents of Hollow's End could be dangerous when they needed to be. Pushing the door open even further, I took a step inside the house. Immediately, the stink got 1,000 times worse, and I found myself lifting up my arm to cover my nose. Ugh, Dave said, covering his own face in a similar fashion. Something's definitely rotten in here. We were keeping our voices low, assuming the person responsible for sharing the location of the town was still inside this house. But it seemed hard to believe that anyone could stand to live in this place, with its odor of death and decay. I would not have been surprised to find at least one dead body inside, if not more. I cleared the main floor, room by room, as Dave stood near the front entrance to ensure no one escaped that way. It was a small house with no indication of a basement, so I was able to clear it relatively quickly, turning lights on when I entered each doorway. All of the rooms were empty of people, and the house seemed well maintained, aside from the awful smell. It looked like a home that belonged to an old-fashioned grandmother, with knickknacks, fake flowers, and white doilies adorning every surface. Little porcelain and glass figurines looked like they had been kept clean with frequent dusting. It even smelled a bit like mothballs. Once I was sure the place was empty, I called Randy and Dave to come inside. We all stood dumbfounded in the middle of the living room, with a small, wood-paneled console television set as its centerpiece. This makes no sense, Dave sighed. This place doesn't even look like it has a computer. No Wi-Fi or internet. The most high-tech piece of equipment in here is that damn Zenith. How could the signal be coming from this house? As if to answer his question, the old television set turned on by itself. The image slowly resolved into grainy focus, after taking several moments to brighten up.
Well, hello there,
said a giddy voice from the TV.
Sheriff Parsons, Randy, and Dave, I presume.
After taking a moment to collect myself, I spoke back. Although, it did feel a little weird talking to an old TV set. Yes, I'm Sheriff Parsons. And who, exactly, am I speaking to? He chuckled.
I have never been fond of names. Those labels we are born with can have such unpleasant auras. Imagine being a Dahmer or Bundy after those two were caught doing their deeds. Thank goodness those surnames were rare. Those cursed with them would have had to change them, or live knowing they would be judged forever unfairly by them.
Sounds like somebody got picked on in grade school, Randy whispered, elbowing Dave in the ribs. I bet his name is Harry Balls or something. I ignored him. Do you have a nickname then? Something we can call you by?
And to look up on the NCIC as well, I'm sure. A clever ploy, Sheriff Parsons, although clumsy. But regardless, I will give you something to call me by. Something novel and without record, I'm afraid. What shall it be? What shall it be? Well, I suppose, considering my appetite for entropy, You may call me Static.
Okay. Static? What do you want? Why are you sending outsiders to Hollow's End? There's been a lot of them showing up recently, and there's a good chance most of them are going to get hurt. Or die. Probably die, Randy confirmed. More giggling ensued.
Entropy, gentlemen. Entropy. Do you know what it means?
Chaos, I replied after a second's thought. You want chaos?
A simple definition from a simple man, lacking all nuance and, thus, lacking a definition. Entropy is not simply chaos. That is only one aspect of it. You should do some reading, find out what it really means, and why it is essential to our existence.
What the hell are you blabbing about? You want to cause disruption and chaos? Well, how about we disrupt your life and throw you behind bars, huh? How about you tell us where you're at? And you can give us a science lesson on entropy and any other bullshit you want to talk about. Randy was getting red in the face, his hands clenched into tight fists. I realized he was just as pissed as I was, and that was saying something.
Goodbye, gentlemen, and good luck cleaning up all the bloody messes that are currently being created around town. You're going to need a lot of help.
And with that, the television turned off, the image shrinking rapidly into a tiny dot at the center of the screen. It sat quietly humming for a few seconds before that humming grew louder and louder. Soon, it got so loud that we had to plug our ears to prevent ourselves from being deafened. Then, a small white dot appeared on the television screen. That dot began to glow brighter, expanding until it became a blinding white image that filled the screen. A laughing skull filled with static. And then the TV exploded, sending shards of glass and flaming fragments of wood paneling everywhere. The three of us dove to the floor, covering our heads with our hands. When we stood up, the living room was on fire, the flames rapidly spreading from the place where the television had been. Within a few seconds, the fire was spreading and surrounding us, and all we could do was race out through the front door and try to escape. There was no chance for us to extinguish the blaze before it consumed the structure. I pulled out my cell phone and called the volunteer fire department, and they arrived a few minutes later to put out the blaze, the green lights flashing atop each one of their cars. Dante Kincaid, the fire chief, brought several new hires who got their first opportunity to put out a real house fire. He made a few quick introductions, and as distracted as I was, I managed to put their names away in my memory bank for future reference. Kelly Savory, Jessica Hunt, and Chris Zamora. I thanked them for their service as they put out the blaze, watching as they attached a hose to a fire hydrant across the street with practiced professionalism. We gotta run, I told Dante. We're still trying to catch the bastard who's responsible for this. Good luck, the fire chief shouted, as we made our way back to the squad car. Bye bye bye, Jessica waved, holding the blasting fire hose with one hand. Signal's gone, Dave said, looking defeated outside the squad car. We were covered in gray soot and ash, and some of Dave's hair looked like it had been burnt off, as well as his eyebrows. Don't get discouraged. He did a hell of a job finding this place, I told him. We wouldn't have a clue who was doing this if it wasn't for you. We still don't, he muttered. We're no closer than we were before. Hey, that's not true. We got plenty to go off of now, I said hopefully. We're gonna check our police database for that nickname, and for any other distinguishing features he might have leaked during our conversation. I've got it all up here. I pointed at my temple. Let us do our job. We are very experienced police officers. Nah, he's right, Randy said. We're screwed. We didn't get shit all from that encounter, and he's still out there somewhere laughing at us. Oh, we're never gonna catch this guy. I shook my head at him, giving my deputy a warning glare. What my colleague means to say is that we appreciate all of your efforts, and if you do pick up on another signal we can use to track this guy, please let us know. Dave didn't reply, and continued to stare at the ground in front of him. Come on, we'll take you home. Keep fighting the good fight, okay? That got him to look up, and he locked eyes with me, nodding. All right, I'll keep trying to find this guy for you. I don't want innocent people getting killed, and I don't want all this to draw too much attention to Hollow's End. All these visitors coming to town can't be useful for anyone. When Dave said that, it set alarm bells ringing in my mind. Something about what he just said and what Static had said earlier. Entropy. What did it really mean? And what the hell did it have to do with the visitors overwhelming Hollow's End? Look at this, I said to Randy once we were back at the sheriff's station. Entropy, he read out loud. The amount of thermal energy unavailable to do useful work. Measures a system's disorder or randomness. Okay, yeah, so what? It's just long-winded science talk for chaos, like you said. Is it, though? Maybe it's more complicated than that. Or maybe he's just fucking with us to waste our time Googling this bullshit. He said he has an appetite for entropy. What do you think that means? I don't know, man. He's a shitty freestyle rapper? No. Well, maybe. I don't know what he does on his days off. But think about it for a second. We've seen all kinds of different creatures in this town. And one particular type of creature has a tendency to feed on bad energy. TikTokers? No! Think about it. Sometimes they feed on blood, or emotions, or someone's life force. Door-to-door salesman? I sighed loudly. Okay, more examples. Kamisha Coffin, Mr. Demaster, that freaky guy who almost destroyed the town last year with a monkey paw. Vampires, Randy said quietly. And not just any vampire, an energy vampire. Maybe this guy feeds on chaos. He could be a chaos energy vampire. Holy shit. That would make a really good comic book anti-hero, actually. Damn it, Parsons! This is no time to be thinking about your graphic novel pursuits. Aw, hell, man. Frickin' vampires give me the willies. Stalking around at night, turning into bats and shit. I frickin' hate bats. You know they carry rabies, right? He stood to his feet and wandered away, towards the kitchen. Where are you going? I'm checking to see if we got any garlic and steaks. I continued Googling, and also made one or two sketches of a badass chaos energy vampire who I would need to come up with a cool name for later. Randy came back a few minutes later, carrying a head of garlic and a 2-pack of frozen, vacuum-sealed ribeyes. No, not steaks. Wooden steaks, I told him, making a stabbing motion with my hand. Those aren't gonna work. Who the hell keeps wooden steak knives around? What is this, the frickin' 19th century? I found a mop nearby and broke it in half over my knee, then handed both ends to Randy. Sharpen these into points. Haven't you ever seen a vampire movie? Nah, I'm not into scary stuff. I sat down and looked back at my research, and by that, I mean Google. Seems like chaos vampires are a new thing, assuming that's what we're dealing with here. There's nothing about them online. Randy had already abandoned the steak project, and was digging through his desk drawers looking for something. Eventually, he pulled out an old crucifix on a chain and stuffed it into his pocket, along with the garlic. We got any of those silver bullets left? Randy asked, looking through my desk drawers next. Those are for werewolves, remember? No, I meant those Coors Light we confiscated from those teens the other night. Did you drink them all already? Oh. Yeah, I drank them all. Without warning, the front door of the sheriff's office banged open, and I heard voices calling out desperately from the entrance. Oh, great. We've got victims already, I said, heading in that direction and motioning for Randy to follow me. But when I got out to the main reception area, I was surprised to see a distinct lack of panic on the faces there. A woman and her grandson were waiting patiently near the entrance, and I recognized them a moment later to be Alabama Nana and her grandson, Hunter. The 6-year-old was wearing his signature Boss Baby t-shirt and was holding his grandmother's hand, looking up at me with a smile. "The circus is in town," little Hunter called out, just as his Nana was opening her mouth to speak. "We were going to get pizza, and there were all these cars everywhere, and the circus is in town." I looked up at his grandma to see if she could make some sense of this. "Is he referring to a metaphorical circus?" I asked hopefully. "Unfortunately, no. There seems to be an actual full-blown circus being set up on the outskirts of town, Sheriff. I have no idea where they came from. It's like those tents popped up overnight. Hunter was out playing when he spotted them, and sure enough, I saw it for myself when we went out for our walk over to EL's Pizza Palace." Randy was pulling on his gun belt already and straightening his deputy badge. "Let's go deal with these folks," Randy said, tipping his hat to the small boy. "That's some dang fine police work there, son. Good job. Here, I got something for you." And then I realized he wasn't straightening his deputy badge, but removing it. He bent down and pinned it to Hunter's Boss Baby t-shirt, and then took off his hat and put that on the kid's head as well. The look of joy on the boy's face was infectious. I found myself smiling too. I'd never seen this side of Randy before. "You know what this means, right?" Randy asked Hunter. The boy shook his head no, looking down in awe at the badge pinned to his shirt. "It means you're an official sheriff's deputy now. So if you see any trouble, you do just what you did today. Tell your Nana. She's got a direct line to us, okay?" "Okay," Hunter agreed enthusiastically. "What do you say to the nice deputy, Hunter?" "Thank you." Randy gave the boy a pat on the shoulder, and the two of them left, with us following them out. After pointing us in the direction of the circus, we were off to confront the people running it. Passing more and more cars with out-of-state license plates during our walk, I couldn't help but feel like we were drowning in a sea of problems with no life preservers. Things had gotten bad in Hollow's End in the past, but I'd never felt so overwhelmed and hopeless since arriving here. It was like we were being struck by one calamity after another, with only Randy and I able to stop it. I took a deep breath and tried to calm my nerves. It did not help. Soon enough, the giant red and white striped canopy tents came into view, looming over us and attracting crowds of tourists and citizens alike. Cars were parked up and down the block, as people came from all across town to see what was going on. The chaos of a circus was in full display, as we saw trucks being unloaded, huge crates being lifted and shoved this way and that, and dozens of camper vans and animal trailers with their accompanying trucks. Folks were moving in and out of the tents, carrying items and getting things set up. "You think this is Static's doing?" Randy asked me nervously. "He did say he was trying to cause chaos, and this place does look pretty chaotic." "Could be. Who knows what he's capable of? But, assuming these circus people are normals, it should be easy enough to get rid of them," I said as we got closer. "Plus, there's no way they got permits for this. The town would never allow it." That was when I noticed a piece of paper nailed to a nearby signpost, which read, "Permit to operate a circus in Hollow's End," displaying several official-looking signatures and bearing this week's exact dates. "Oh, what the shit is this?" Randy said, smacking the paper with the back of his hand. "No frickin' way this is real." I took a closer look, bending down to take in the details of the permit. It looked very real. It had the town crest and the signatures of multiple people in positions of town leadership. But it was old. It looked like it had been sitting in a drawer for decades, if not longer. The paper was yellowing, and the writing was slightly faded, but still legible. I don't know. Looks real to me. But it's ancient, I said, looking for a date. I couldn't find one. It could also be a forgery for all I know. Come on, let's go talk to whoever's in charge of this place. Maybe we can convince them just to move on. Okay, if you insist, Randy said, with a barely concealed grin on his face. What are you smiling about? I asked him. He managed to hold it in for approximately 2 seconds. Oh, who am I kidding, boss? I love the circus. I mean, I've never actually gotten to go to one on account of them never coming here, but they always look like so much fun on TV. Fresh popcorn and flamethrowers, people doing crazy tricks and riding motorcycles, and not to mention the clowns. Man, who doesn't love clowns? I froze in my tracks. Clowns? They have clowns here? I had never been to a circus before either. Yeah, duh. Of course, dude. Clowns are like Circus 101. Oh, that reminds me. Did you know I actually tried to get into a prestigious clown college back in the day? Man, if only my grades had been better. That actually doesn't surprise me at all. But just do me a favor. If we see any clowns, you talk to them, okay? Can do. We started walking towards the largest canopy tent's entrance when a tiny car whizzed past, cutting us off. Dust was choking the air, and I found myself coughing and waving away a cloud of it. I couldn't see 2 feet in front of me through the brown fog. When the air cleared, I saw what looked like a tiny VW Beetle. The door of it opened, and a parade of little nightmares poured out. And by that, I mean clowns. Lots and lots of clowns. They flooded out from the car, their faces painted white with red and blue accents, their hair done up in crazy, colorful updos. They were all very small, and had prosthetic pointed ears and long Mr. Burns noses that made them look like goblins. What an odd choice, I remember thinking at the time. Goblin clowns. As if regular clowns weren't scary enough. At least 20 of them poured out of the car, surrounding us menacingly. I didn't understand how they could all fit in there. But then I caught a glimpse of the interior of the Beetle, and saw it appeared much larger than could have been possible. Although it must have just been a trick of the eyes. When I blinked, it was normal again.
The circus is closed until tomorrow,
the tallest of the clowns said, approaching from the ring which had surrounded us.
State your business.
My mouth opened and closed several times, but no words came out. I really hate clowns. We're here to see your boss, Randy said, thankfully taking over for me. We want to talk to him about that phony permit over there. And we're hungry, too. You got any popcorn? The clown rolled his eyes.
What a surprise.
Huh?
I said, yeah, sure. I'll take you to see him,
he said quickly.
Come on, follow me.
He began leading us towards the nearest of the red and white striped tents, and we hurried to keep up with him. His little legs moved fast.
Bear with me,
he said to a burly guard as we went to enter the canopy, and he held up a flap to allow us in.
Tell the boss we got visitors.
You know the rules,
the bouncer said, stopping us with a large, upheld hand before we could enter.
No phones. You gotta leave them here with me.
No electronic devices allowed inside the circus, I'm afraid. No exceptions.
The clown grinned at us with teeth that looked to have been sharpened. He pointed to a sign which confirmed this rule. "No exceptions" was underlined and capitalized, and followed by several exclamation marks.
Is that gonna be a problem?
"We're law enforcement officers," I tried to say. But the giant man and the little clown didn't look convinced.
No exceptions.
The clown repeated, tapping the sign with his walking stick. "Fine," I finally agreed, pulling out my phone and handing it over to the bouncer. Randy did the same, and the giant man eventually stepped aside to allow us through. We entered, and my eyes adjusted gradually to the darkness inside the tent, slowly taking in the details around me. The vast space had been cleverly divided into sections, and grandstands were being erected around the perimeter of the interior. We were hit by the smells of straw, fresh popcorn, and hot apple cider as workers passed to and fro in front of us, busy with their tasks. Trapeze artists could be seen up in the air, practicing their upcoming act. A woman was dangling precariously from an upside-down man's outstretched hands, swinging back and forth before he threw her. I couldn't help but gasp as she sailed and tumbled through the air further than I would have thought possible, before snagging another bar with her knees and hanging from it on the other side of the trapeze. I could have been mistaken, but I didn't see any net below them. I imagined their skulls smashing like cantaloupes upon the hard ground below, if they missed a move or if their sweaty palms slipped on the bar. Shaking my head, I tried to banish the thought. Once they had finished this part of their practice act, the trapeze artist turned to glare at us from up above. I suddenly felt like an intruder. Their gazes followed us like owls in a tree, their heads turning silently to watch us go. Again, I had a surreal feeling, as I could have sworn their skulls swiveled more than 180 degrees as we made our way from them into the next canopy. We entered another section of the circus through a grand doorway, which led us into an area where performers were spinning plates and juggling everything from bowling pins to axes, swords, machetes, and flaming torches. There were gymnasts and contortionists practicing alongside people in giant wheels, rolling around and doing tricks, stopping on a dime and spinning in place like giant tops. I saw a magician practicing with his assistant, and another throwing knives at a woman in a sequin gown who was lashed to a spinning target. He hit the target with each throw, missing her by only inches. And as he went to retrieve the blades, she yawned loudly. "Can we go for lunch yet? Starving," she asked, still spinning. "In a minute, darling. Let's do 2 more sets first." As we passed acrobats and gymnasts and flaming devil stick players, I saw we were approaching another doorway. This one seemed to lead into an animal pen, and I could smell hay and manure as we got closer. A crowd of laughing clowns passed by, and I made myself as small as possible and hid behind Randy. "You guys got caramel corn?" he asked them, oblivious to my terror.
Yes, we have all the different kinds of popped corns.
The small clown leading us answered like an irritated waiter.
Come on, we're almost there. The ringmaster will be waiting.
I noticed that there were no radios or headsets, or any of the other modern devices that might be employed nowadays to make a circus like this run smoother. Everything looked downright old-fashioned inside the tents. With the exception of the tiny car outside, there was no technology at all at this circus. I didn't see a single cell phone, computer monitor, or even a microphone for the performers. No wonder Dave hadn't mentioned the circus earlier. Even though he was on point about everything else, he hadn't known about this place because it had no digital fingerprint. As the goblin clown thing led us into the wildlife section of the circus, all those thoughts fled my mind. Because this was so much stranger. A male lion with a huge mane and giant feathery wings was being led by its trainer towards a platform. There, the winged lion proceeded to take flight, soaring through the air and diving back down again a few seconds later, towards the trainer. The man pulled himself up onto the back of the big cat as it passed by, and held on for dear life as the roaring lion ran along the perimeter of a circular track above, going in circles around us, far up in the air. As my eyes settled back down to ground level, I saw an elephant with the long legs and spots of a giraffe, a pair of horses with the skittering legs of a centipede, a wolf as tall as a tour bus. "Ooh, popcorn!" Randy called out, ignoring everything except a colorful red stall nearby. A sign affixed to it read, "Help yourself." He filled up a tub of popcorn for himself, none for me, and came back to join us. "Super buttery," he mumbled around a mouthful of kernels. "You should try some." Randy? "Yeah?"
What the hell is going on here, man?
He looked up from his popcorn, and the tub fell from his hand a second later, as he finally noticed all the strange animals. "Holy shit," he muttered, fumbling for his gun with buttery hands. "Please stop," I told him, putting my hand on his shoulder. "Your solution for everything cannot possibly be pull out my gun." He thought about this for a moment and seemed to settle down. "Well, what exactly do you suggest, Mr. Boy Scout?" The small clown was a little ways up ahead now, and he turned back to us and raised his eyebrows, as if to ask if we were still coming with him. "I say we do what we came here to do. We talk to the guy in charge, the ringmaster. I have a funny feeling he might know something about our other problem in town, too. This is too much of a coincidence to believe these guys showed up on the same day as a frickin' supervillain. Static and this circus have something in common, and I have a funny feeling we might get some answers here. Alright, genius. Let's go deal with this diabolical freak." "Don't worry," I said calmly. "I'll take the lead." The goblin clown, who I now realized was an actual goblin, led us through another tent flap into a huge arena. This one looked to be the largest of all the canopy tents, and the ceiling stretched higher up above us than I would have thought possible. It looked like you could fit a skyscraper in here, but that didn't make any sense. Unless this circus was bigger on the inside than the outside, like the TARDIS, or that clown car.
This way.
The small creature ahead of us said, waving us in with a claw-tipped hand. How had I not noticed that before? In fact, now that my eyes were open to the possibilities of this place, I was noticing more and more things that didn't make sense. Creatures that looked like a cross between giant monkeys and humans hung from the high beams of the tent, swinging around and making slight repairs and adjustments with wrenches and other tools. There were fire breathers up ahead, and as we went past them, I saw there were also water breathers and smoke breathers. The group of them were working together to create a fascinating display, as fire was breathed out, extinguished by exhaled water, and then manipulated by the third group to create a three-dimensional smoke dragon which soared up into the air high above. The ringmaster came into view up ahead, and the three of us approached him cautiously, as he silently practiced his act at the center of it all, pantomiming and mouthing the words he would say to the assembled crowd. As he spun around, I saw that beneath his top hat there were two faces. One face on the front and one on the back. Perfect for this kind of performance, I thought, since the 360-degree audience would always be able to see his face, no matter which direction he turned in.
"Ah, Randy. Sheriff Parsons. I've been expecting you,"
he called out as we approached.
"Wait right there, please."
There was a large black ring around him, and rings on either side of him where other performers did their acts, in the typical style of a three-ring circus. We were about to step across this central boundary to speak to him face to face. As I was about to cross it, however, something strange happened. The ringmaster seemed to tense up as the black ring which encircled him began to spin and slither. For the first time, I noticed the odd texture on the giant ring's surface, like scales. The scales of a snake. I turned to see a monstrous creature's face coming at me from the right, a pair of long, sharp fangs dripping venom, and a forked tongue. It struck out at me, then stopped an inch away from my face as the ringmaster called to it loudly. "Cease!" The snake froze mid-air, then settled back to the floor. It was a massive anaconda by the looks of it. So huge, it had created the illusion of a ring around the performer. "We'll take a quick 5, the boss said, businesslike. And the snake slithered away, along with its other 2 companions who made up the accompanying rings. I could have sworn that one snake rolled its eyes at me. "Sorry about him. He gets, very protective," the ringmaster explained, coming closer. "No problem," I managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. "Nice to meet you. I'm Sheriff Parsons. This is my deputy, Randy." "Of course. The pleasure is all mine, Sheriff. I am the ringmaster, but you may call me Ordo if you like." "Okay. Ordo," I began, but was quickly interrupted by Randy. "What did you mean by what you said a minute ago? Right before your snake guardian almost killed my friend. You said something about how you was expecting us?" Randy asked suspiciously. "Well, yes. I was told you were coming by my assistants," the ringmaster explained casually. "Despite our lack of technology, we do have a business to run, and we do have means of communicating, although they may not be the typical, modern sort you're used to." Something told me he was lying, but I decided not to fight him on it. We had bigger fish to fry right now. "I'll be honest," I said. "We came in here to see if that permit out front was legit." "Oh, I can assure you it is," he began. I held up a hand, and he allowed me to continue. "I believe you. Obviously, this isn't your typical circus, and that's not your typical permit. It's ancient, for one, but still looks official and has this week's date. So someone back who knows when approved this. But since I'm not in on it, and I am the sheriff around here nowadays, would you mind filling me in on the secret? Who are you people? And what the hell's going on around here? And please, don't lie to me. I hate when people do that. And he's like a human polymath too, so don't even try it," Randy said, around a mouthful of popcorn. "Where did you even get that? Did you just pick that up off the ground?" I asked. "Never mind. I don't want to know." "Well, it's no secret," the ringmaster began to say. "We have been..." There was a loud bang from behind us, and then a much louder crash. Someone screamed. Our conversation was interrupted as the ringmaster went running in the direction of the commotion, looking worried with his second backwards face bobbing. "What's going on?" he shouted, moving faster than I would have thought possible. And with 2 mouths, he had twice the volume of a normal person too. We followed him and went back through the last tent flap to find ourselves in the section with the animals once again. Smells of hay and manure hit me, as well as the screams of panic from a nearby trainer. "Someone let the elephant moose out of its pen," she was saying to the ringmaster. "I know I locked that gate." There was a trail of destruction left behind, but thankfully, a group of workers had been able to stop the creature from doing too much damage, and were corralling it back towards its enclosure. It was the largest moose I had ever seen, bigger than a monster truck. I was wondering how they had been able to stop it, when I saw that one of the people seemed to be using magic to calm the animal. It was a woman with glowing blue eyes, stroking the moose on its leg. Everything is under control, the ringmaster called out, trying to reassure everyone. Let's clean up this mess and get back to work, everyone. We got it all sorted. He was interrupted by a loud bang. Again, it came from through the adjacent flap in the next canopy tent. A short, stifled scream followed, and then we were running through the flap. We emerged in the tent where we'd seen the gymnasts and acrobats. I looked up just as a loud bang went off, and a figure went sailing through the air from a giant cannon. Their body hung suspended in the air for so long, it was hard to imagine how they would survive the inevitable fall.
What is he doing?
He's not supposed to be. The ringmaster started to shout, but then trailed off, realizing it was pointless. More screams could be heard from across the tent, followed by a loud crash. We ran in that direction, following the ringmaster. Chaos was erupting all around us, as people swarmed to help a man who was down on the ground amidst a ruin of collapsed wooden crates.
Cannoneer Carl!
Carl, are you okay?
Talk to me, buddy.
The ringmaster pulled off the large man's helmet, trying to get him some air, but he was unresponsive. His head lolled forward, his face pale and gray. He didn't appear to be breathing. Gasping, the ringmaster recoiled, and as he let go of Carl, the limp, dead man slumped to the floor. I bent down and checked his airway and his pulse, before confirming my suspicions. Looking towards the ringmaster, I shook my head sadly. He's gone.
Impossible,
Ordo murmured.
It can't be.
Murmurs and whispers could be heard all around us, but they gradually grew silent as I spoke up, until, by the time I was done, it was quiet as a tomb inside the giant canopy tent. Explain, I said, because it looks to me like this guy just got shot 100 yards out of a cannon, and that he did not land in a net, which to me would imply pretty much certain death. A lot of cold stares looked my way. Every head swiveled in my direction.
Calm down now, everyone,
the ringmaster said.
He's here to help, and we are going to need his help, I think.
The man dusted off his hands and looked me dead in the eye.
There was no greater expert among all of my employees. Cannoneer Carl could not have made a mistake like this. This was no accident. This innocent man was just murdered before our eyes. I've suspected since our arrival that someone is sabotaging my circus, and this all but confirms it. I need both of you to figure out who is responsible for this sabotage and this murder. I have no doubt the two are related.
I opened my mouth to say something about how I was the one in charge here, but Randy quickly cut me off.
Holy shit! Hell yeah! An old-fashioned whodunit murder mystery in a frickin' circus? You bet your ass we're gonna solve this shit. But I'm gonna need some more of that popcorn first. You just keep it coming.
And that was that. We'd officially signed up to solve a murder, and I guess it was kind of our job anyway. My earlier questions would end up waiting, and for now, the plans of Static and his mysterious cohorts continued unhindered. We had a murder to solve.
Oh boy, what a shit show. A supervillain and a circus come to town all in one day? Looks like we got our work cut out for us with this mess. Me and the sheriff are gonna be busy trying to solve this murder for a little while, but we'll get back to y'all soon with the details and tell you what happened. In the meantime, if any of you got any ideas on who done it, let us know in the comments. We'll take any leads we can get, especially Parsons. He's real bad at this stuff. Now, the perceptive ones among you might have noticed a few familiar names and faces popping up in this one, as well as a few new ones. Well, Hollow's End keeps growing, and if you want to become a citizen yourself and be featured in an upcoming story,
check out patreon.com/Jordan Group Horror to find out how to become a member of the town. Just like Alabama Nana, Hunter, and the new volunteer fire department workers, Kelly Savory, Jessica Hunt, and Chris Zamora. Oh, and if you want to watch the last episode of the Hollow's End continuing storyline, check out the link at the end of the video here. You can also take a look at the pinned comments or the video description for links to more Hollow's End. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in Hollow's End again real soon.